did. There we go. Looks like we're recording. Anyway, thank you, God, for everything. Biblical word study. Here we go. Studying one word at a time from the Hebrew and the Greek. And we're doing this reproaches. Let me get this word here. Anidismos. Reproach. And also, let me get this. What's this here? Psalm 69. All right, we'll look at that later. I just popped that up there now. 15:3. Anidzo. That's the verb. First, we'll go through that 3681, which is one time here in the Bible. Anidos. Reproach, shame, and it comes from this anoma, but I don't think that's I don't think you could take it back to that, but we'll see. There's something else here. The Lord, thus hath the Lord dealt with me in the days wherein he looked on me to take away my reproach among men, and that's what's her name, Elizabeth, talking about she's pregnant with John the Baptist, and the Lord took away her reproach because she was barren, you know. So that's what the reproach was that she's talking about. Anidos, and this one here, this particular one, when you throw it back into the Old Testament, you get a couple of good verses here. So we're going to do that, and we're going to start with the Theological Dictionary. First of all, let me tell you, it's Theological Dictionary 5, starting on page 238. And we're going to do that. And I gave you this other one here, right? Yeah. This is the masculine noun, anadismos. And this here would be the other verb here, anadidzo, upbraid, which comes from the neutered noun. Okay, anadios. All right, so we'll start reading here on page 238. Anadios belongs etymologically. This guy says it doesn't belong to anoma, even though when you break it down, this particular McClinic and Strong thing says anoma, but I kind of believe what this guy says here. But it goes to an Indo-European root, need, N-E-I-D, which means to revile or to reproach, because none of this has anything to do with anoma, name. So we'll see. On the, let me see. So the idea of a good repute is rightly rejected. Because this is usually in a negative, this thing here. So far, this guy's pretty good. When used thus by the poets, kalos anidos, the word is meant ironically. Kalos we know is good. So good reproach, that's like I put a question mark there. How could you have good reproach, you know? So the predominant use sense is disgrace, or shame, or scandal, then abuse, and harsh rebuke. They got this word objurgation, which I had to look up, and it just means harsh rebuke. So, and in this also, the word denotes one who is covered by shame or brings disgrace on others. And it goes on to tell a story about the daughters who brought shame. The daughters of Oedipus brought shame, and a few other places here. But in the Septuagint, the group anidos, anadidzo, and anadismos embraces a number of experiences whose common factor is a relation to God disputed by sinful man. And for this whole reason, the reason the whole of man's earthly life stands under the shame to which God subjects man as a sinner. And the hope of deliverance is orientated especially to liberation from this. And you'll see this in Isaiah 25. Let's see if this is the right number here. Isaiah 25 and 8. Here we go. And this is the word that will take it back into the Old Testament. He will swallow up death in victory, and the Lord God will wipe away tears from off all faces, and the rebuke of his people shall he take away from off all the earth, for the Lord has spoken it. And this word here is kerpa. So when you throw this on Idzo, on the Edmos, and all that stuff into the Old Testament, this word pops up predominantly. Kerpa, reproach, shame, rebuke. As you can see, there's 73 verses here, and that's the feminine noun. And this verb here has got 41 verses. That's karaf. And we'll be looking at this through this Septuagint thing here, 3681. So we'll just put this up here. So we'll be jumping around with that. So man in his earthly life is in many ways subject to the shame, which, whether he despises or is despised, is the basis and the result of sin. And that's what we get the reproach from that, from doing sin. And this may be seen in the fact that he heaps something that brings disgrace. It's called opprobrium. Approbrium, opprobrium on others, especially the righteous. So that's something that brings disgrace, and he does it especially on the righteous. And this is how Israel views its history and how the righteous view their destiny. The human passion for abuse is finally directed against God, who avenges the insults brought against him and subjects the ungodly, the enemies of the chosen people, to shame. And you'll see that all through the Bible, where God subjects these people, Israel's enemies, to shame. And this is true of wrongdoers, whether individual or national, who transgress divine and human law and offend against morality. So sin is a reproach to a people. And they have a different word here. This is 26:17. Let me see if it's over here. This is Proverbs 14:34. I don't think it's in here. Wait, Proverbs 14:34. Proverbs 14:34. So it's not in here. Let's put it up over here. Proverbs 14:34. I got this tickle over here. 14:34. And this word here is different. He says, righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. And this is an unusual word to use for reproach because it's chesed, which means mercy, kindness, as you can see, loving kindness, goodness, kindly, merciful, favor, good, goodliness, pity, and then one time, reproach. And this is the one time where it's used as reproach. I don't know why. So righteousness exalted a nation, but chesed, but sin is a chesed to any people. I don't understand why they would use chesed here. You go figure that out. I don't know. They got it down as reproach in the English, but it surely isn't that in the Hebrew. So violating the law is a disgrace before God and man, but this also true of the righteous, whom God delivers up to reproach for testing, training, and chastisement in Isaiah 37:3. Isaiah 37:3. 37. Is it here? You're making a liar out of me now. Isaiah 37:3. 37:3. Must be another one. They said unto him, thus saith Hezekiah, this day is a day of trouble and a day of rebuke and blasphemy, for the children are come to the birth, and there is not strength to bring forth. So the particular synonymous word for this onidzo or the kesed is not here, but you got the understanding that this is a day of trouble and rebuke. This rebuke is tokeka. It's chastisement, correction, refutation, proof, reproved, basically. So it's another synonymous word with this here. And then let me get this out of here. What happened? Okay. So, but whom he finally delivers from it. So he'll do that. He'll break your neck, but then he'll cure you. So. In this respect, the righteous are on God's side. They bear the shame which would fall on God himself. Psalms 69 and 7. And hopefully it's in this, because sometimes the Psalms, I know it says 68 in the book, but it's 69 and 7. Because for thy sake I have borne reproach, shame hath covered my face. So this reproach here is the kirpa. That's the word that is thrown in here. And let me see if it's over here. Psalms 69. It should be over here. Psalm 69, it's not here. But which, I'm curious now. Let me get this here. Greek Old Testament, Psalm 69 and 7. 69. See, it's not. It would be 68. This is what drives me crazy when I do this throwing back, because over here it says 68 and 7. And I'm looking for the word here, 6, 7, and 9. Open it to Israel. Do not make. Let me try 9 here. Ape again. Adelpho. I'm looking for the word here, and I don't see it. So see, that drives me nuts. But it's 69 and 7 over here. Psalms 69. Let's keep it over here. And 7. 7 and 9. But for thy sake I have borne reproach. Shame hath covered my face. I am become a stranger unto my brethren, and an alien unto my mother's children. For the zeal of thine house hath eaten me up, and the reproaches of them that reproach thee are fallen upon me. So you got this reproach here, this kirpa, and down here you have the kirpa and the karaf. So you got both of them in there. You got the noun and the verb. So this is the final explanation of their destiny. Their piety is a piety of suffering, which gives joy and power in affliction, and which in the insurance of faith finds security in the world and the courage for action. And you'll see this in the New Testament a lot also. Blessed are you when you were reproached. How could you be blessed? Most people don't know what blessed is. They think blessed is something great. God's blessed me with a lot of money. No, God's blessed you by being reproached and hated. That's how you're blessed. So in the final explanation of that, their piety is a piety of suffering, which gives joy and power in affliction, and which in assurance, most people can't wrap their brain around that. Assurance of faith, Psalm 73. Psalm 73. It says 72, but it's 73, 23 to 28. 23 to 28. All right. Nevertheless, I am continually with thee. Thou hast holden me by my right hand. Thou shalt guide me with thy counsel, and afterward receive me to glory. Whom have I in heaven but thee? And there is none upon the earth that I desire besides thee. My flesh and my heart faileth, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. For lo, they that are far from me shall perish, and thou hast destroyed all them that go whoring from thee. But it is good for me to draw near to God. I have put my trust in the Lord God, that I may declare all thy works. So, and that's, before that he says, thus my heart was grieved, and I was pricked in my reins. So foolish was I and ignorant, and I was as a beast before thee. So we'll find security in the world and courage for the action. In suffering then lies deliverance and liberation from all shame. And as in secular literature, so in the Septuagint, one may note a transition from abstract to concrete use. In several passages, anidos means one who is covered with shame. The word thus has the same sense as anidzamenos. I didn't look that up. You could see menos in there. You could see anadidzo. So the neutral takes the place of the masculine form in Ezekiel 16:57. I had this up here earlier. Ezekiel 16. Yeah, let me see. Yeah, 16:57. 16:57. All right. So before thy wickedness was discovered, as at the time of thy reproach of the daughters of Syria, and all that are round about thee, the daughters of the Philistines, which despise thee round about. So in the clearest, so it's the clearest in this respect. The borders of anidos and onidismos are fluid in the Septuagint. The same is true in the other translation. Sometimes prefers anidos, where the Septuagint has, and so you have different books have different translations. Or the Septuagint, as in 68:10, Psalms 68:10, 68:10. I think this is right. 8:10. The congregation that dwelt therein, O God, thou hast prepared thy goodness for the poor. 10 and 20. It's probably 69. I'm not going to go crazy because I didn't look this up, and it's usually a book ahead. So let's look at 69:10 real quick. You see, this is what we have to go through when we're looking these things up to get the right verse and the right translation. Here we go. It was 69. I'll cross this out. I didn't go to this yet, so we'll do 69:10. When I wept and chastened my soul with fasting, that was to my reproach. And that's the 27:81. Okay. And Job 19. Well, mostly you'll see problems with that when you're going through Proverbs and Psalms, but most of the other books, they're pretty right on with the numbers. Job 19:5. Job 19:5, hopefully. If indeed you will magnify yourselves against me and plead against me my reproach. And he's talking to his friends over here, and they're all jumping on him. And he's saying, plead against me my reproach. What did I do wrong? He didn't think he did anything wrong. So in the New Testament, 3681, we saw that one verse. Elizabeth, the wife of Zacharias, feels her childlessness is to be a disgrace. So when after the miraculous intimation of the angel to Zacharias, she becomes pregnant and she rejoices and she says, my reproach has been removed. And this 3679 on a Didzo, 3679, I got it up here in the Septuagint, okay? It means to upgrade or to, upbraid, excuse me, to scold or to revile, to bring reproaches against someone, to lay something to a person's charge, to raise a complaint against something. In general, with the accusative, and I'm not going to get into all of this, and the objective, and it goes into the dative, and the Septuagint, most common in Psalms, especially of opponents. Then 27, the object of Aniyidzian are God, Israel, and the righteous, or men of the nearest and closest circle of life. Okay, we'll skip all of this. Included in the authority of the earthly Jesus is Aniyidzian. When his work is unsuccessful in the cities of Galilee, his acts of power do not lead to faith and conversion. So what does he do? Jesus condemns the city. Matthew 11:20. Matthew 11:20. Then Jesus began to upbraid the cities wherein most of his mighty deeds were done, because they repented not. And this was the cities. What were the cities? Chorazin, Bethesda. All right. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, behold, a man gluttonous and a winebibber and a friend of publicans. But wisdom is justified of her children. All right. And they said, but John, they said he came neither eating nor drinking. So it doesn't matter. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't. If you come neither eating or drinking, they say he has a devil. If you come eating and drinking, you're saying, behold, a man that's gluttonous and a winebibber. So you can't do anything, right? And he upbraided them for that. He said, woe unto thee, Chorazin, woe unto thee, Bethesda, for if the mighty works which were done in you had been done in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes. But I tell you, it shall be more tolerable for Tyre and Sidon at the day of judgment than for you. And he goes to Capernaum, which is his like adopted city. That's where he lived, which are exalted unto heaven, shall be brought down to hell. For if the mighty works which has been done in thee had been done in Sodom, it would have remained until this day. So he's upbraiding these people in these cities where he did a lot of great works. And also in Mark 16:14, it's the same thing. Afterward, he appeared unto the 11. Oh, this is different. He says, afterward, he appeared unto the 11 as they sat at meat and upbraided them with their unbelief and hardness of heart, because they believed not them which had seen him after he was risen. So this is like when they told Thomas, we saw Jesus. He says, I don't believe you unless I see the wounds in his hands and put my finger into his side, I won't believe. So they were upbraided for that. And that's Anadidzo, upbraid for that. And then but the passion of Jesus, which includes being despised even by those who were crucified with him. So he's on the cross, and the guy is on his left and the guy is on his right, and both of them initially upbraided him. Mark 15:32, he says, let Christ, the King of Israel, descend now from the cross, that we may see and believe. And they that were crucified with him reviled him. So even the guy that he says, today you will be with me in paradise, he must have reviled him too. Or else they're just talking about that one guy, the guy on his left, And then Matthew 27:44, the thieves also, which were crucified with him, cast the same in his teeth. That's a funny way to say it. Cast the same in his teeth. So they onadidzo. The disciples share with their master the fate of having to suffer. Jesus shows them in Matthew 5:11, blessed are you when men shall revile you and persecute you and say all manner of evil against you falsely for my name's sake. And they use the word makarion. Yeah. Stop. Blessed. Makarios. Blessed are you when men shall revile you. But their suffering stands with the word makarios. In this paradox, and it is a paradox, is enclosed the uniqueness, mystery, and glory of discipleship. Discipleship brings sufferings, and therewith the reason for exultant joy. Even when, I don't know, forget who it was, Peter, James, or John, and they were upbraided, they were scolded by the Pharisees, and they were told not to do it. And it brought joy to them when they were beaten and they suffered for righteousness' sake. And they went and boasted about that. Yo, we just got beat for Jesus. But above that, so in Luke 6:22, Luke 6:22, blessed are ye when men shall hate you, and when they shall separate you from their company, and shall reproach you, and cast out your name as evil for the Son of Man's sake. So blessed are you when they shall separate. Aphorizo. And that's what we're supposed to do with the world, to mark off from others' boundaries, by boundaries, to limit, to separate. Aphorizo comes from apo and horizo. It's like a boundary, to mark it off, to mark off the boundary. So the disciples have to reckon with the fact that they will be excluded from all fellowship with their fellow men. That's rough. A similar thought occurs in 1 Peter 4:14, where we again find anidzo and makaroi in juxtaposition. And that's 1 Peter 4:14. If you are reproached for the name of Christ, happy is makarios, blessed. Happy are ye, for the spirit of glory and of God resteth upon you. On their part, he is evil spoken of, but on your part, he is glorified. Spirit of God resteth on you. Anapao. Rest. Anapao. Okay. So because Christians separate themselves from the world to live for the will of God, there arises hatred, contempt, and persecution. I get that all the time when I'm putting stuff online, or I'm on Facebook or YouTube or something like that, and somebody says you're an idiot for believing what you believe, and I say, okay, thank you. You know, what am I going to say? Let me see. Persecution, blessedness, and suffering is based on the fact that the spirit of glory rests on them. And that's the spirit of glory. Anapao. So the spirit of doxa, right? Yeah. Rests on you. Anapao. So that's good. In the name of Christ means the same as a Christian. Thus, the thought of Christ's passion is echoed in the whole phrase, unite in the name of Christ. And I had to look that up. Oniidziens, excuse me, Oniidziense en onamati Christou. It means unite in the name of Christ. In James 1:5, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God that giveth to all men liberally and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. It's a statement about God. It's made in connection with the Onizian. To be generous in giving is the very essence of God. Men often accompany their gifts with discontented utterances, which degrade and wound the recipient, but God gives and does not upbraid. So he gives to all men liberally and upbraideth not. Liberally is haplos, comes from haplus, which means the single or simple or whole. It's alpha and pleco, to plait, to braid, to weave together. Haplus. I'm going to go through all of these. Akari is harmless, simple. Akakos, simple, harmless. 91. Eidolos. I can't do this with my voice. I'm sorry. Let me see. Paul in Romans 15:3, for even Christ pleased not himself, but as it is written, the reproaches of them that reproach thee fell on me. And that's taken from Psalms. I tried to do a cross references on this, and believe it or not, this verse didn't even pop up. Psalm 69, right? 69 and 9. The zeal of thine own house has eaten thee up, and the reproaches of them that reproaches thee are fallen upon me. So Paul's talking about all this good stuff that's in the Old Testament. The reproaches, the kerpa of them that karaf, reproach thee, are fallen upon me. With a view to setting before the community the example of the unselfish and humble mind of Christ. Onidzin occurs as something in in Mark 15:34, 15:32 here. Mark. As a vowel in Mark 15:34. It's not 15:34, it's 15:32. I can't believe they got something wrong here with the New Testament. It says, let Christ, the King of Israel, descend now from the cross, that we may believe, and they that were crucified with him reviled him. Why do they have 34? And at the 9th hour, Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which is being interpreted, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Why hast thou forsaken me? Ek katalipo, en katalipo. Katalipo, to leave or to forsake. Kata and lipo, to lack or to be wanting. Okay, so they got a misprint here with something in the New Testament. All right, and 1 Timothy 4:10. 1 Timothy 4:10. For therefore we both labor and suffer reproach, because we trust in the living God, who is the Savior of all men, especially of those that believe. So he's not the Savior of all men. And in Mark 15:34, the evangelist, so it's not a misprint. In Mark 15:32, the evangelist renders the saying of Jesus on the cross, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which comes from Psalms 22, actually, 15:34. Let me put this in context again and put this here, and it comes from Psalms 22:1. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? Why art thou so far from helping me? and from the words of my roaring. So why would they reference that here with Anidzamai here? Messianically interpreted by Ortheos, mon Istai. Otheo, mon proske, mon en catalipo. Okay, that's what we just said. En catalipo. But what does that have to do with Anidzo here? 33, 34. Why hast thou forsaken me? Excuse me for doing this. This en catalipo, that's over here. En catalipo. So let's read on and see what they say about this. But this expression of dereliction seems to have caused offense at quite an early date. It does not occur in Luke or in John. D in Marcus Magnus to a weak in at 1 Timothy 4:10, our text reads, East Tugar. The reading found in many witnesses, and they go on to different, like you got D, P, all these different versions that were put together. Paul is speaking of the gymnasia, the gymnasia of the piety, which is the goal of his own and Timothy's efforts. So this guy goes on a little thing over here trying to explain this, and it really doesn't make sense to me. But I can see something about why hast thou forsaken me? You could say that's abraded, but it's not. It's a lipo, engatalipo. So anyway, he just went off on a little tangent there. So aniidsmos, which means 36, 81, 36, 79, right? 79? Revile. Ani, we did that. All right, sorry. Where's the MOS? MOS is 80, 3680. 3680. All right, let me get this out of here. All right. So this means insult, abuse, reproach. It's a late word, a construction of the koine. It occurs yada da 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 da. Okay. It is fairly common in the Septuagint. So if you throw this in the Septuagint, 1680, 3680, it's over here. So you got 48, 49 verses with this 3680, which is anididsimos. Anidsimos. All right. It means contumely or reproach. Okay. The expression, and they got stuff in the Syriac here. We got to do that. This I haven't read yet, so I'm reading this for the first time. With aniidsmos, akuien, lambanan, hupoferian. We also find the strong cortazeste, and I'd have to look all of these up. And Lamentations 3:30. Lamentations 3:30. If there is a 3:30. 3:30. He giveth his cheek to him that smiteth him. He is filled with reproach. Kerpa. Poneria. And if you put this in the Greek Old Testament, 3:30, it's poneria. 3:30. Doya, epania, auto, sigare. It should be poneria. Siagon, Cortadzo, Phil, and Onidsimos. Let's go back to the KJV. Smite Pro. Okay. It's got Poneria here. And Artemis to occur together in Nehemiah 1:3. Let me see this here. Maybe it's over here. Here it is, Nehemiah 1:3. And they said unto me, the remnant that are left of the captivity there in the province are the great affliction and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem also is broken down, and the gates thereof are burned with fire. So this is Nehemiah crying to the king. And this affliction so what's the other word here talking about here? Hold on a second. Nehemiah 1:3. Poneria and Oniidzmos occur together in Nehemiah 1:3. So Poneria, Oixmalosius. That's nice. Ikemalosia, captivity. Here it is, Poneria. Depravity, plot, sin, wickedness, iniquity. All right, so they use Poneria, for this affliction, and over here it's actually just ra. It means evil or bad, but they use Poneria. Okay, and Emptalmos and Oniidzmos in the Syriac. We can't go through that. And Baruch, even more characteristic is the heaping up of synonyms in the description in Isaiah 37:3. Isaiah 37:3. Sounds familiar. I think we did this already. So you'll see what two words here now? Synonym and description, even more characteristic. Heaping up synonym and description of in Isaiah 37:3. 37:3. And they said unto him, thus saith Hezekiah, this day is a day of trouble and rebuke and a blasphemy, for the children are come to the birth, and there is not yet strength to bring forth. So they got this Oniidzmos in here for thlipsis, a day of thlipsis, and rebuke here in the tokekath, in the Hebrew, but in the Greek it's Oniidzmos, and this is thlipsis here. Okay, so and then Tobit, we're not going to get into that. We can't go look in the book of Tobit. I could, but I'm not. I would have looked at all of this before I even got to this, but you're just going to have to go through it with me right now, like it's the first time, because it is. And 1 Timothy 3:7, blamelessness of walk is required of episkopos. Episkopos. Moreover, he must have a good report, kalos martyria, of them which are without, lest he fall into the reproach and snare, haggis, of the devil. So where do they get episkopos here? A blameless of walk is required of the episkopos. We know what episkopos is. Let me see. Moreover, he must have a good report, lest he fall, and pipto. Okay. Them who are without. Exothen. I don't know what they got the episcopos here for. This is to find expression in the testimony of those who do not belong to the Christian community, lest the episcopos should come under reproach and defamation. Episcopos. Episcopos. I just want to get the epi. No, got Ada. That's the wrong epi. Episcopos. M N X epi EPI E epi S episcope. Told you it was tedious. Episcope SK EPIJK. Here we go. We just did episcopos. The bishop, overseer. I was thinking of episcopos. I was thinking of scopos to mark off, but it's epi and scopos. It could be, yeah. But so 1985, overseer, episcopos, bishop or the overseer. So he's talking in Timothy. Okay, so he's talking about man. So this goes back to what Paul is telling the episcopos, the overseers. In Timothy, he's talking about the bishop must be blameless, and this is 3:2. So we'll go 3:2 and put it in context and take it down to 7. A bishop must then be blameless. So the episcopos then must be blameless. The husband is one wife, vigilant, sober, good behavior, given to hospitality, apt to teach, not given to wine, no striker, no greedy of filthy lucre. Is there any other kind? But patient, not a broiler, not covetous, one that ruleth well his own house, having his children in subjection with all gravity. For if a man know not how to rule his own house, how can he take care of the church of God? Not a novice, lest he be lifted up with pride, he fall into the condemnation of the devil. I consider myself a novice. Moreover, he must have a good report of them which are without, lest he fall into reproach and the snare of the devil. So I'm looking for episcopos in that verse, but it's not. The whole thing is talking about the episcopos, the bishop. Episcopos, overseer. There we go. So that's the fine experience testimony of those who do not belong to the Christian community. All right. So the people that don't belong are going to be railing all kinds of stuff against you. The fullest use is in Hebrews at 10:33. Hebrews 10:33. Partly whilst you were made a gazing stock, both by reproaches and afflictions, and partly whilst ye became companions of them that was so used. And in context, he's talking about it's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God, but call to remembrance the former days in which after you are illuminated, you endured a great flight of afflictions. All right. For you had compassion of me and my bonds. He took joyfully the spoiling of your goods, knowing in yourselves that you have in heaven a better and an enduring substance. So we find that oniidzomai and thalipsis together, and the author reminds the readers that in earlier times of affliction, they were made a spectacle by reproaches and oppressions. And at 11:26, he says, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches, speaking of Moses, than the treasures in Egypt, for he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. So this is Moses could have had all he wanted if he stayed in Egypt and went with Pharaoh, but he gave all that up. He esteemed the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures of heaven and the recompense of the reward. He had respect. Epo blepo. to have respect, to see, to take heed unto the what? The recompense of reward. Misthepodosia. Misthepodosia. Recompense of reward. Payment of wages. So he knew he was going to get a better reward going into the desert and dissing Pharaoh than he would if he just stayed with Pharaoh and lived a life of leisure with his shaved head or his beard or whatever he had over there. Misthepodotes, a rewarder. All right. So good for Moses that he did that, huh? And that's 11, what was that? 1126. And 1126, in a distinctive combination of widely separated historical events, there is reference to the aniismos to Christo, the reproach of Christ in the life of Moses. The suffering of the people of Israel, which Moses is willing to share, is closely related by the author to the future suffering of the Messiah. So there is a mysterious connection between all the sufferings which occur according to God's plan of salvation. The resolve of Moses to accept the afflictions of his people rather than enjoy sinfully the treasures of Egypt is regarded as an act of faith. I don't know, God showed him something. The reproach of Christ, right? The expression, the expression, the reproach of Christ recurs in 13:13. He says, let us go forth, therefore, unto him without the camp, outside the camp. That's exo, right? Exo, without the camp, bearing his reproach. The author demands from his readers a separation from the world and from earthly life in general, according to the example of Jesus. So as Jesus suffered outside the camp, so Christians ought to differentiate themselves from the profane world and bear the reproach of Christ necessarily involved in such action and conduct. This reproach is the suffering which Christians must endure as such. And we have to. Some of us do, some of us do. It ain't easy. The nature of the aniismos is more precisely indicative by the Tau Christo. Tau Christo, I forget what that stands for. Of Christ, I think it is. The nature of aniismos and the fellowship of suffering with Christ. The expression aniismos Tau Christo. Aniismos Tau Christo. The suffering or the reproach of Christ. Basically what that means. Unites Christ and Christians. Christians ought to be messianic bearers of the cross. Well, this is a good read here. Messianic bearers of the cross. I like that. So aniismos as well as aniidzien occurs in the quotation at Romans 15:3. For even Christ pleased not himself, but as it is written, the reproaches of them that reproach thee fell on me. So the aniidzmos of them that aniidzo me fell on me. So that's good. That was a good read from the Theological Dictionary of the New Testament. And there's a bunch of other words here that took us back. That one was good, that 2781, the kerfpak and the karaf. That was TWOT 749. But we didn't have to go to that because, like I said, the Theological Dictionary of the New Testament covered just about anything you wanted to see in this TWOT here. So the TWOT would show you some good stuff. Basically, the word means to reproach with the specific connotation of casting blame or scorn on someone. The connotation of casting blame is evident in Job 27:6. My righteousness I hold fast, and I will not let it go. My heart shall not reproach me as long as I live. So he still thinks he had nothing wrong with himself. Where Job protests that his heart does not reproach him for any of his days. And in Proverbs 27:11, the wisdom teacher desires that his pupil may be wise, so that the teacher may not incur blame from others. Proverbs 27, my son, be wise and make my heart glad, that I may answer him that reproacheth me. Like me telling my son, be wise, so people don't come to me and say, what's your son doing? That's it. In Nehemiah 6:13, the word seems to be used in the sense of defame. In other words, impute blame or guilt to someone in order to harm character. Therefore, he was hired that I should be afraid and do so in sin, and that they might have matter for an evil report, that they might reproach me. So these were the guys, Tatnai and the other guy, they were hanging out, and they were trying to get Nehemiah to come and hang out with them. But they wanted to kill him, but he wouldn't go with them. They wanted to have something to say against him or kill him, one or the other, either one of the both. In most instances, the word is used in the sense of casting scorn. In Psalm 74:10, the word occurs in parallelism with neas, scorn or condemn. Psalm 74:10, O God, how long shall the adversary reproach? Shall the enemy blaspheme thy name forever? Neas, despise, provoke, blaspheme. So how long shall the enemy reproach? Karaf. Okay. So in Proverbs 14:31, it is the antithesis of kabel or kabed, which means honor, and may be understood as disgrace or dishonor. And that's Proverbs 14:31. He that oppresses the poor reproacheth his maker, but he that honoreth him has mercy on the poor. So you oppress the poor, that's a shock. But he that honoreth him, that's kobad, has mercy. And this is kanan, mercy. Oh, I was thinking the other word, the Greek word. Okay. So in Judges 5:18, the people of Zebulun are described as scorning their lives even to death. Zebulun and Naphtali are people that jeoparded their lives unto the death in the high places of the field. They jeoparded, so they put jeoparded in here for this word. All right. They reproached their life. All right. So in context where an adversary reproaches with scorn or insults, taunt is an acceptable translation. And you'll see that in these two verses here, Judges 8:15 and Psalms 119 and 42. All right, where one is pictured as treating another with contempt or scorn. The word may bear the nuance of mocking. Okay, and in 2 Kings 19:22, whom hast thou reproached and blasphemed, and against whom hast thou exalted thy voice, and lifted up thine eyes on high, even against the Holy One of Israel? 2 King, I don't know who he's talking about there, but you get the picture. The connotation defy is evident in context where one sets at naught the strength of the enemy. 1 Samuel 17:10, I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together. And he took off his head. And these other ones, so that was the TWOT 749, which they covered better in the theological dictionary than this theological word book did. I mean, the TWOT is good, but if you ever would just want to get one of these books, get the TDNT, and it'll give you the TWOT stuff in it if you don't want to buy all of them books. But another word here is why is this 0819? I got stuck in the corner here. 0819. This is sin, trespassing. Ashma, trespass, sin, offend, guiltness. TWOT 180, trespass, offering, trespass. Dishonor. 819 from 820. And we go to 0820. See what this is. Desolate places. Asham from 0081. Oil. Shemin is oil. Gethsemane. All right. 820 is Atimos. Okay. Okay. I think it might be Greek. Here, hold on a second. 819. 819. That might be it. I have it in here with my Hebrew stuff, but it's off on the side here. Yeah. Atima, for this cause guides them up to vile affections, dishonor, shame on him, someone in dishonor, yes, honor and dishonor, reproached. Okay, there we go. And this, there's no theological dictionary on this, but it comes from a timos, and we covered this last week with the time. What was the numbers? Time, honor, and epitimo. Yes, that was 2008. Sure, 2008. We covered this last week. Rebuked. All right, and it's epitimeo. Let me get this out of here. Epitimeo, rebuke, charge, to show dishonor, comes from epi and timeo. All right, timeo is honor, timios is precious, and that's us, we're precious. And this is time, it's honor, and it comes from tino, to pay or to recompense. Whew. A lot of stuff here. But this 819, I just had it on the side, but it just popped out of me. So dishonor, and it comes from 820. 820. I thought it was Hebrew. Without honor. Atimos, without honor. It's the same thing as that that thing we studied last week. Epitimeo, epitima, timeo. It's got honor on one side and blame on the other. Remember that? Punishment on one, blame and punishment on the other. To evaluate and to measure out punishment, and also to honor, timeo. All right, so let me go. That was last week's study. Without honor, and that's what this is here. So that's a Greek word. All right, we're not going to get into that. There's no dictionary on it. And this 36, 37, I'm just going to throw these words at you here. 36, 37, ashamed, kalam, and it's 36, 39 also, 36, 39, and that comes from that. Okay. Shamed, confounded, and there's how many verses? 38 some odd verses with that here, and there's 29 verses with that there. The reproach. Let me go here. Put this up here. Let's see what we got here. There's not too much here. Ashamed, confounded. Kalam denotes the sense of disgrace, which attends public humiliation. In 30 cases, the root is used in parallel with bosh, to be ashamed. And bosh, I have here 0954, bosh. Hold on, 0954. This is a biggie too, I think. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff here. There's 100 some odd verses here with this. Well, bosh, ashamed, confounded. All right, the TWOT 222. We could look at both of these. So you got TWOT 987, TWOT 222, and then there's another one, 7022. Where am I? Oh, 7022. Where's this here? Get out of there. Oh, 7022. All right. Nope. It's one time. Okay, and we'll go to the other one here because 7036. Oh, 7036 and 7034. 7034. This one here is TWOT 2028, and it's just shameful spewing that were filled with shame for glory. What's that word? Shame. Yeah. So this is the 7036, but that's TWOT 2024. Shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. Whatever that means. But these two words here are the ones that have this theological word book of the Old Testament here: shame, disgrace, and dishonor. So we'll look. We can look at that. But the words are kalon. Excuse me, kalon, and the 7034 is kala. Seem vile, shall be contemned, lightly esteemed, to disgrace, to dishonor. All right. So if we put them on the side and we look at this, it would be 2024 in the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament. So that's another one. We're not going to look at it tonight. We don't have time. But this other one would be Kesed. We looked at that. That's one time. The 2617, it was confusing because it was just, it's the word for mercy. But they have shame one time. And I'm going to give you the two verses here. Proverbs 14:34. Is it Proverbs? Yeah, I think so. Proverbs 14:34. We might have looked at this. It's one time that this particular word is used for that. Righteousness exalted a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. So that's just one time that reproach is used for this word, chesed, which is mercy, kindness, loving kindness. So that I couldn't figure out, but they used it anyway. And this other word, Proverbs 25:10, Proverbs, should have left that there, 25:10, 25:10, lest he that heareth it put thee to shame, and thine infamy turn not away. And that's 26:16. It's part of this kasad also. But it's only three times, and one of the times it's put to shame. But most of the other two are show thyself merciful. So you go figure. I can't figure it out. Loving kindness, Holy One, stork, whatever stork. And look at this. Wouldn't think there was so much here. Look at this. All right. And it means merciful. But they got this one time here, the shame. And the other time is reproach. So this is the verb, and the other one's the noun. So that will cross that off. And then this 2659. Let me open up another page here. 2659. Oh yeah. 2659. 9 is ashamed, and it's kafer, confound, perhaps the same as 2658, kafar, which means to dig or to search out. Ashamed, confounded, ashamed, shamed, TWOT 715. All right, and there's only 17 verses with this. The basic idea concerns the loss of self-possession through humiliation, embarrassment, or confusion. And there's a bunch of verses here. And then also Bosch, that's the one we looked at already. And there's another one is 2654. I think it's connected to this. 2654. 2654 is delight, delight, delight. 2654, please, pleasure, delight, take pleasure in. 26, might be wrong. Might be the wrong number there. Compare 2644. 2644. Secretly. 644. 2645. Yeah, I might have been a little dyslexic here. 2645. 2645. That's covered, sealed, kafaf, covered, overlaid, sealed. 2644 is secretly. 2653 is cover. 3182 is barefoot or unshod. I'm trying to think of why I have this here. TWOT 707 is what I'm looking at here. The kal is used to express a covering of the head, face, a time of shame. Okay, time of shame, such as the shame of Haman, all right, or the shame of David and those with him in his flight from his son Absalom. All right, so when you're talking about covering something or covering your head, and the PL is used to express overlaying of one object with another as gold overlays. Okay, so it wasn't uppermost on my study, but that's particularly has to do with this here. And David went up by the ascent of the Mount of Olivet and wept as he went up and had his head covered. And he went barefoot. So you got both of them in there. And all the people that were with him covered every man his head, and they went up weeping as they went. So that's something to do with being shameful, being ashamed. I don't know why David ran from him. I mean, after all he did, all the enemies he fought and everything, all of a sudden he's running from this guy. That just always freaked me out. And this is 45, not 54, 45. And then 3001, one, dried up. See what this is. Yabash, dried up, withered, confounded, ashamed, to make dry, to become dry or be dried, to become dry without moisture from necessary normal fluids, plants withering. The third truth communicated by the verb is judgment, the little judgment of Yahweh, in which he makes the land barren by withholding rain and drying up all the water and the produce in the land. It's common throughout the Old Testament. This type of judgment is poured out on Moab, Egypt, Babylon, most of Israel and Judah. Finally, the frailty of mankind and life is compared to grass that withers. The brevity of man's normal lifespan is likened to grass that grows up in the morning, but withers and dies by the evening. Okay. This is contrasted by the enduring quality of God's word. The failure of man's vitality and strength is compared to the dryness of the potsherd in the Messianic Psalm in 22:15. My strength is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue cleaveth to my jaws, and thou hast brought me unto the dust of death. While the distress of man and his death are likened again to grass that withers, a broken spirit can produce the psychosomatic illness, dried up the bones. A merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones. Psychosomatic illness, how about that? Dry land, yeah, emphasizes the dry land, bodies of water. All right, so these were down on the list in the study. That's why we didn't cover them too much. But the two 094, I'm not even going to put this 715 here. Yeah, I'm going to get rid of this too to confound. It's only a few verses, but Micah 3:7. Then shall the seers be ashamed, and the divine is confounded. Yea, they all cover their lips, for there is no answer of God. The seers shall be bosh, ashamed, and the diviners shall be kafir, confounded. So you got two of the words in here. 59, 26:59. But there's one verse that I got pointed out here is Isaiah 54:4. I hope this is right. Isaiah 54:4. And look at all the words in here. Let me get this out of here. Fear not, for thou shalt not be ashamed, neither shalt thou be confounded, for thou shalt not be put to shame, for thou shalt forget the shame of thy youth, and shalt not remember the reproach of thy widowhood anymore. Whew, how's that for ashamed, bosh, neither shalt thou be confounded, kalam, for they shall not put to shame, kafar, kafar, for thou shalt forget the shame, the boshet. Is that the same thing? Yeah, it's the same thing as boshet. Shall forget the shame. Where was I? And the reproach, the kerfa, which we studied with the other one. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words in there, and that's good. And that's all you got to worry about. We got 22, 987, 715, 222, and 749. If we just looked at all of those stuff in the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament, and we'll keep busy, and we'll do that some other time, not tonight. But those, I just wanted to bring them up to you. And this other one here is a couple of them are together with this boshet. Why you keep telling me this? Here we go. Let me do 4016. 4016. It's the M for this here. Yeah, Mebush comes from bush. Mebush. When men strive together one with another, and the wife of the one draweth near for to deliver her husband out of the hand of him that smiteth him, and putteth forth her hand, and taketh him by the secrets. You know what that is, right? He's going to fight. She's going to fight with this guy and grab him. Oh, man. By his secrets. Then shalt thou cut off her hand, for thine eye shall not pity her. That's terrible. I mean, it's like the guy who's fighting with another guy, and he hits accidentally hits the pregnant wife, and she loses the baby. Something's got to happen to him too. That's like a miscarriage or something. But this, you ain't taking a man by his secrets without getting your hand cut off. How about that? And then this is also with 1317. I got here 1317. Just wanted to get these numbers out of the way. 1317. That's the shame. So it's one time. 1317, and it's also from the bush. And this is Bashna. Oh, Ishbo. What's the guy's name? Ishboshet and Mephibosheth. Their names mean shame too. I can't think of the verse now. Mephibosheth. It's probably in here. Let me look in here real quick. See if I can find it. Bosh. All right, my bad shit, the bullshit. So lack of Israel time for Saul's respect for Jonathan. I thought it was here. Oh, here it is. Mephibosheth. Here we go. Evidently, this sense of horror over idolatry accounts for transmutation of the name of Saul's sons, Ishbaal, man of Baal, and Mephibaal, utterance of Baal, into Ishbosheth, a man of shame. So apparently they had the names Ishbaal and Mephibaal, and they changed to Ishbosheth, which man of shame, and Mephibosheth, which utterance of shame. So that's 2 Samuel 2:8. But Abner, the son of Ner, captain of Saul's son, took Ishbosheth, the Saul's son, and brought him over to Mahanaim. Ishbosheth. Ish is man, and Bosheth is shame or confusion, and it comes from that Bosh, ashamed, a man of shame, Ishbosheth. And the other one is Mephibosheth. Mephibosheth, it's Mephpa'ah, scatter into corners. That's interesting. And Bosheth, Mephibosheth. So funny how we get names, you know. Thus, it is probable that Molech is the word for king, Melech, the divine king, with the substitution of other vowels. Indeed, it may have been pronounced Bosheth. In the same vein, Sikuth, Kayun, their gods Kayun, may be vocalized from Shikus and abomination, as in Amos 5:26. But you have borne the tabernacle of your Moloch and your Kayun, Chayun, actually it's Kayun, Kiyun, an image or a pillar, from the Greek, Remphan, the shrunken, the name of an idol worshipped secretly by the Israelites in the wilderness. Kayun, your image is the star of your God, which you made to yourselves. The star. Kokab, stargazers. Just looking up words, man. That's all we do here. 3556. The stars. All right. It's 37 times stars and stars. Multiply the immersions above the stars, the tabernacle, your stars, the sun, the moon, the sun, and the stars up doors. All right. And that should be it for tonight, but it's good. Originally, I didn't want to get into the study. I'm glad that we did. And even though I wasn't as prepared as I should have been, as I like to be, we still had, I had fun anyway. So we thank you, God, for bringing us together. And we give you all the glory, the praise, the honor. Hopefully we did a good job tonight. You know, we just going through your word, one word at a time. We're going to keep going until we can't do it anymore, or at least until we find out what the definition really is. And that one word that we got, that's your word, and that's Christ. Christ is the word, the logos, from before the foundation of the world. We love you, and we do everything in Jesus' name. Amen. So that's that. A lot of jumping around, going here, going there, but we did all right. Yeah. Let me stop recording. Thank you, God, for everything.